first explanation to you guys is this particular, we've not done this trip before. So when we were putting together things, we're still putting together things for you. Now, don't let that mislead you. It doesn't mean we're not organized, because we're both very organized people. But we're also kind of scrambling to get the right numbers for you, to make sure that the information we're giving you is as accurate as we can get at this time. Because we really want to have the Switzerland component a part of this. We're not putting it out as an optional. That's very intentional. It has to do with your coursework. So the Switzerland component of this becomes a really, we're focusing a lot on infrastructure in the city, transportation, and there's a couple of really cool things about that for you as a studio project that we'll talk to you a little bit more about, but we're going to kind of keep this up for you so you, at least you've got a sense of how this is working out. Now, there are some things that are going to move around. You all know, how many of you are familiar with kind of how the whole thing is structured in terms of you have out-of-pocket expense and then you have program expense, right? Should we get the internet opened up?
Yeah, I can pull up whatever.
The wiki?
Yeah.
So, you all saw the presentation. Everything that's on there, we're not going to be able to fly overhead, I'm sorry. We can't fly overhead and do any drone stuff with you. But other than that, the things that we showed you are all places we're going to go to.
Do you want this right now?
Yeah, I think it's good. Let me go ahead and kind of flush through this part of it with you all so that we can, you can see. So you got a total here that's about 11,400. That number may change. It may go up a little, okay? Why? Because we're adding probably about 4 additional days other than what they did last year. So we're using kind of last year's number and your estimated out
You're
of
talking
pocket.
about the last year Italy program.
Correct, I'm sorry. So last year Italy was a Verona, and ours is, the similarity is that we are doing the Venice, Verona, and Vicenza leg, and we are doing the Florence leg, but we're not doing, you're getting an echo? But we're not doing the other portion that they were doing, and we're not out of Verona, we're going to be out of Milan, which you guys are going to love being out of Milan, really. It's a really good bridge between different types of architecture. And Milan is also a really great place because in some ways you can compare it to American cities. They're having to deal with sprawl, just like we are. So there's some examples you can take away from that you really can apply to the American city. And that isn't always the case in all places that you go, that you travel to. So I think that's an important point. So the program fee, you see that listed up there. We've got a wiki site for the program, and we'll continue to build on it, add more information. But the program fee there includes what you see listed out here. And some of this stuff you're required to have, like you have to have health insurance. The university requires it. Every student has to have an international ID. We do have organized meals that are a part of it, and that does reduce your out-of-pocket expense because your meals, typically for all of the programs, your estimated out-of-pocket is your transportation to and from the host location and your meals that are not included in the package, and then your personal expenses you have to add on, because there's no way for us to guess how much you guys will spend when you shop, or whether anyone will shop, or what other side trips you might want to take and that sort of thing. So you'll have to kind of come up with a budget, and that's the same for all the programs as well. You have to kind of figure out about how much traveling do you want to do beforehand, how much traveling do you want to do afterwards. But I think it's really important for you guys to know that we are working really hard to make this as affordable as we possibly can for you, while at the same time not shortchanging you out of the experience. The big change right now is it looks like it's going to be less expensive for you all. Can we scroll down to the second part of this? I don't think I I can't control that part. Okay, so actually, yeah, give me a little more to the title of, right there, they're perfect. Okay, so meal averages, $25 a day is what we're saying. Can you get by on $25 a day? Yes, you can, right? But it doesn't mean you're going to go out to eat all the time. No, you won't go out to eat all the time. But you probably don't want to do that anyway. You'll get very tired of eating out all the time. So the average of 25 a day is the sort of light breakfast. It is, you know, it's an easy lunch, right? So lunch is on the sites that I used for looking at these numbers, you can have breakfast for, you know, about €4. You can have lunch for 6 or 7, and then dinner is, you know, right around 10 or so, and it just depends on, so that translates to about $25 a day.
Yeah, there's these like little pizza bodega type shops everywhere. You can get a slice of pizza for €2.
And we both have experience with, as students, doing study abroad programs. So, I mean, we definitely both learned how to save money when you're traveling, and, you know, how you can make seeing places that are really important to see but maybe are more expensive, trying to cut costs back in other areas. So we're working on that part. Airfare. We're shifting now. So I said Houston to Milan. It's actually, you can, it looks like we're going to start the program in Zurich. Because it'll be less expensive for us to do it that way. See, if we start you out with us going in Zurich, there's two primary reasons to do this. One, which you all think of first, which is cost. So it's going to be more affordable for you all if we do it that way. And two, for your coursework, it will be better for you to begin to gather that information, and we'll start the 4,000 course at the beginning, at the very beginning, and the documentation that you're going to need to be doing, you'll be able to be doing that up front, and that's going to serve your studio work much better. So we think that this combination is going to end up working out really well. So you can fly in and out of Zurich for about $1,800 round trip. Okay, what's your other option? You could fly to Paris. Okay, you can do a round trip to Paris and take the train, $75 to Basel. It's about close to 100 to go to Zurich by train. So if you're thinking, well, I'd like to do a little traveling beforehand, maybe I'd like to see Paris, this is going to be the most economical way to do it. Do a round trip out of Paris, take the train over to Zurich to meet up with us. So, you know, add on at the beginning of your trip, 4 or 5 days. If you feel like I would like to do a little bit of traveling beforehand, but I don't really want to be spending too much money doing it, then that's going to be a more affordable way to do this particular program. So in and out of Paris, train over to Zurich, okay? Right now, the way we're organizing it is meet up in Zurich, and then we're going to move from Zurich in and out of Zurich. We're going to Basel, we're going over to Germany, to Vitra, we're going over to Lucerne, so we're going to do these legs. That's also important though, because the transportation part of what you're doing in the studio, it's going to be great for you all to be on the train and to see the different train stations and look at how all of this functions, how people move in and out of a city. So that component actually works well. So it looks like we're going to really utilize the train as much as we can as a way of informing you as well. And the other part of that is if you think you're going to travel afterwards, you'll have trains down so well that you're going to be totally comfortable traveling afterwards if you choose to do that. So this gives you an idea on average out-of-pocket. Flights have gone up everywhere, so probably everybody's price to fly this year is higher than it was last year. But I think that I've given you some ranges here because your out-of-pocket, it kind of depends. You can be creative with how you get to places, and there you have a lot of options. So one of the other things we're looking at for you all is a Eurail pass. Why? Because if we can make a Eurail pass economical for you to do, you can use it for other things, right? So when you've got some free time, well, you got the Eurail pass anyway. Right, so you can take an excursion on the weekend, and that's already included in your Eurail pass. So we're pretty sure that the Eurail pass is going to come out to be economical for you all to do. And we're looking at a couple of different options with the Eurail pass for you. But keep in mind that as we're doing it, we're also having conversations about what it was like when we studied abroad and kind of things that we wished, if I had known then what I know now, what would I have wanted to do. And some of it is that kind of thing, like, you know, a Eurail pass really gives you a lot more flexibility as a traveler. And we think that that's going to be a huge amenity for you. Accommodations. They're pricing out accommodations for us right now. The one thing we know for sure we won't do is we won't do host families. Anybody opposed to that? We won't do host families because my experience with it is that you don't always know whether the host family is going to be the best host family for the student. So you can have students in the same program that have different experiences because of their host family. So we'd rather you all be on the same, you know, it's even for everyone. Right now they're pricing out for us hotels versus apartments versus dormitory. Typically it would be an apartment situation. So you could start to think about that. You don't want to be a single person in an apartment. It's going to be at least 2, maybe 3, could even be 4. And if you're grouping together and you already know I want to go do this, you'll give us a heads up and we can see if we can have some adjustments made too on the prices that we get. So if we have 4 of you go in an apartment together, then that can then allow us to get another quote that will help that price. So this gives you the rough idea of what you can expect in terms of expense, and then we want to talk a little bit more about the coursework with you. And does everybody have do you understand at this point that we're looking both at historic architecture and contemporary architecture? That's really important to us to make sure that the program that you have does that. The other really important part of it is that you get to understand, that you get to a place where you have a much better understanding of how we occupy cities and how we move about in cities. So that's going to tie to your studio work as well as your 4000 course. Before we do you want to talk a little bit about do y'all want us to talk about coursework first, or do you have some immediate questions that we can sort of field for you that are related to the sort of organization of the trip?
You must remember that really, really long video I played for you yesterday. Sorry. Attention spans don't last 8 minutes anymore. But you remember which cities we're planning on seeing, right?
So on the website, we also have there for you a list of a lot of the sites. And we also, so if you go over to the wiki, we've just sort of listed, of course the Milan list is much longer because we're spending more time there, right? So we're going to have opportunity to see more stuff. Not all of it will be organized, so it's also important for you to know that we think it's important for you to be able to have time on your own to explore the city. We all experience the city in different ways. And if we take you everywhere, then you're going to be experiencing the city through our eyes in the way we want you to. And that's not the objective. We want you to get experience in what's it like for you experiencing the city, so that when you do your coursework information, that then feeds other students, so that we make observations about things, about how we move from one place to another, what one particular open space, public space is like as an experience for one student may be very different for another student. And so we want to make sure that you have the time to do that. So we will have studio class, regular hours for studio class. That's required of all of our programs. And we're going to get you in a rhythm too, so that you'll come to class, we do our coursework, we let you go. Either we have an organized excursion where we are going to go see, like we're going to go together to see the Duomo because we want a guided tour of that. more economical to do it that way than if you go off on your own to do it. So we're factoring those things in. But then we want you to have the opportunity to go off and explore things that are on the list that are not specific field trips that we'll take for a day, so that you may say, you know what, I don't want to look at this, I don't want to look at this, I don't want to, I'd like to go here and here. This is what I'm going to do on that day. And we're going to have you documenting things as part of your coursework. So that ties into it. So we're actually encouraging you to get out and move around the city and see things and do stuff, because all of that is going to feed your studio work and your 4000 coursework, as opposed to, and we'll talk a little bit, if you go to the website and you'll see the list of places, sites that we're going to visit. The ones for Switzerland are very specifically selected. They're part of that particular excursion. And then when you are in Venice, you're going to have some free time on your own. When you're in Verona, you're going to have some free time on your own. Vicenza will do as a group, but then you'll have a few hours on your own for the town. So we want to make sure we're giving you enough time to experience the city the way you experience cities, because we want you to come back and share that. We want to see what it is you see that's different from what we see. So this particular video.
Oh, so in terms of, so I'll be helming the 4000, and we're going to be creating a lot of temporal documents in this. So these are documents of our travels. We'll be doing video, may even do some animation, and we'll do some still images that actually capture movement and temporality. So I don't have anything to really show from Milan, because I haven't done Milan yet, but years ago when I was back in Boston, I was working with the Loeb Fellowship at the GSD, and I went to India with them. And we created these video documents of India, and it was a group collective, so it was everyone who had an iPhone was shooting, or their little camera, and then we came back and we made these, I edited these things together. And so there's a couple on there, and then we added some interviews afterwards, because this was a way to show our program to other people. There's these type of things, and there's more artistic type of things. And right now, to me, the world is my oyster, and I want to do everything, but we'll have to be a little bit more strategic in terms of the type of things we do. But they all will be focusing on movement, transportation. This is a piece that's hard to see. It's about traveling via car over the San Francisco Bridge. And of course, we don't have sound, but there's a very rhythmic soundtrack that goes with this. And then I wanted to explain those images that we put up in the, I'm also trying to be fast, because I know you guys have construction in 25 minutes.
You just reminded them.
Yeah. So last year I actually did an independent study with Francisco Alvarez. Anybody remember him? He just graduated. And he was interested in working with moving image. And so we concocted this study. He was also really interested in sort of the differences between natives that live in El Paso, or live in Juarez and work in El Paso, and vice versa. And so we did a study of border crossings, and these are actually temporal documents. They show 3 different bridges, and with the way that we manipulated the images, what you get to see is the rhythm and the speed of the different bridges. And I'm not going to tell you how we did it unless you take the course. So I'm interested in producing these kind of documents to supplement all of the excavation and the mapping that we do, and the interventions and insertions that we do in the actual studio project.
Yeah, and I think that for you, yes, do you have a question?
Yeah, so besides the study of movement and travel, will we have solar project on the site?
Yes, we do.
Can I give you, I don't know, is that PowerPoint, that other PDF I made on there?
Did you? Is it on? You mean the one of the student work?
Yes.
I don't think that's on the computer.
Okay. It's on that drive. So I'm going to pull up some images and talk a little bit about the site and the project. And I think, you know, when it comes to understanding the city, you as a student have to make your own observations, and that then informs the decisions that you make, right? And we just think that in teaching this course to you, that if we set it up in a way that your studio project is kind of birthed out of your observations, where we give you an extended site and then we let you move through the site and document, and then we work with you more individually to make decisions about what is your insertion or your intervention on the site. So for some of you, it could be a pavilion. For some of you, it could be a series of transit stops. For some of you, it could be the insertion of a coffee shop somewhere because you've observed that this particular area of the site is in dire need of something that will activate it, and you begin to think about what are the kinds of things that I see around the city that seem to be activating these intersections. So for us, this experience is really about, like, you document everything you're seeing. We want you to see as much as we can get you to see in the early part of the program, certainly throughout, but we're pushing a lot into the early part because we want you using that as visual information and experiential information that then allows you to say, hey, I think this particular site really needs this, without me saying this particular site is going to be a pavilion. This particular site, you're going to do a train station, right? I teach graduate studios, so I think some of it probably comes a little bit from that, but it also comes from my experience in urban and community design, that this is how we experience a city. We all experience it very individually, and we all take positions based on how we experience it. So rather than us tell you that your project is going to be exactly this, I think that we serve you better. I don't know if there's a pointer on this, do you know? I think we serve you better if we work with you and your experience in the documentation that comes out of the 4000 course, and then we begin to look. So this is a really critical intersection for the site. All right, there's a lot happening here. There's a lot happening when it comes to just movement, in part because it's not a grid intersection. You have multiple points meeting. Okay, so if you look up in the upper right hand, you see this. Okay, so you see the train station here, right? And then you see a huge rail line. And look at how these feed in. And this large swath here that looks like kind of, you've got the top of an X there, and then we've got an X that sits in the middle of the site. So we're really going to explore that heavily because that particular area has just about every condition you can imagine experiencing when you're moving through a city. You're going to come across open spaces, large open spaces. You're going to come across small open spaces. You're going to have to deal with bus transit, metro transit, train transit, pedestrians, bicycles. And so this particular area gives you, it's a way of us capturing a smaller area for you to manage and then getting you to explore all of that transportation in that area, and then getting you to hone in on what you feel is your position. What's missing? What's needed? What would you like to develop for this? So some of you, and we've talked quite a bit about this, some of you could have projects that are really linear, almost like a thread with beads on it, if we were to diagram it. Some of you may have projects that are very compressed and compact. But it all comes out of your observations of the city. And I think that if we structure it in that way for you, what it means for you is that it gets you to take back an understanding that you're really intimately connected to. You understand the city, you understand how we move about it, you see a need for something, and then we work with you in developing that. So will we say to you, you're going to need more space than that if you're going to do a cafe here, or will we say to you, you're going to need, for a pavilion, you got to be thinking about these kinds of things as well, or will we say to you, if you're doing transit stops, these are all the things that you've got to take into consideration. Yes. But we're knowledgeable about the city, and I'm very comfortable with being able to guide you all in that. We'd love it if you work in teams of 2, because it makes you more efficient and you kind of get to feed off of each other for a project. And the reality is, when you go out in the profession, you never work solo. You always collaborate with someone for your work. So it kind of gets you in the spirit of doing that. But the other part of it is that it helps you manage the time that we have for studio. Because we pack a whole lot into 6 weeks. I mean, like every one of the study abroad programs does. You got to pack a whole lot in to get in a semester project, and 2 courses into that time. But we want that experience that you take from it. We want you taking all of that experience from the city and applying that to your course. We don't, the site is really different, and it is very complicated, but we're going to explore that site more. We're going to explore the site more as a class when we get there, but we're going to explore that site beforehand as well. As you know, you take an acculturation class in the spring. Well, you don't sign up for the class. It actually goes towards your 4,000 course, and so we don't meet very often. We have to deal with some logistical things. But in that particular one, we're going to get you familiar with the site and comfortable with it before you actually arrive there.
And I'm also planning on, because I want you to use some moving image software, I was planning on doing tutorials before we meet, so everybody's up to speed and ready to go.
Can you advance? So when we looked at that site, maybe I should take this just so I can.
And do you need both?
No, thank you. You
Yeah,
need that
let's
actually, because you're being recorded. Okay, let me back up just a bit here. So this is I told you, is a really critical intersection for the site where there's a lot of stuff going on, and you may elect to do something in this triangle site here, or at this node that happens down here at the bottom, but you may do a string of things. If you look at the site overall, you see the large portion of the site that kind of comes up into a V. All of that area there, you may select something that is much more closely tied to train transit. And we're going to help you identify it. Like, you're going to have conversations with us where you're going to say, God, this is what I observed, this is what I noticed, this was really cool, I didn't really care much for this. And that's going to help us steer you in the direction that we think you're really heading anyway. So key intersection, and we'll come back to this in a moment. So you're also going to look at, well, what happens at the sort of newer public space development, redevelopment projects, and how this public space is associated with the immediate context, and how you make a decision about how you're going to establish your architectural vocabulary for that.
Has anyone, you guys have all heard of Herzog and de Meuron at this point, right?
So this is a building by them that I think is a really good example of a great contemporary structure in an historic context. So my preservation friends would be upset with me for saying that, but I actually think it's so important for you to understand other aspects about contemporary design and their relationship. Whoa, I didn't do that. Here we go. And their relationship to a historic context. Materials today are important. You should, as an architect, have the ability to establish a vocabulary and a position about architecture that allows you to respond to current technology. And historic architecture did the same thing. Historic architecture changed because of the change in technology and the change in culture. So, you know, the simple, most simple example I can give you is glass, right? So you look at old buildings, what's your first clue about how old they are? The smaller the windows, the older the building. Why? Because you couldn't span glass very far. So when they were making glass, you just had small panes. So you had 12 over 12 windows. But glass technology changed over time. And as it changed, you could span glass further. You started seeing 2 over 2, 1 over 1. That gives you a clue about the age of a building, right? The building changed because of that change in technology. Spandrel glass allowed you to now have large spanses. We want you to really understand why history changed and then why current technology is important in a historic context. So this building respects the scale of the neighborhood, but it takes a very clear position architecturally. We want to encourage you to do that. So if your position is no, historic buildings should be respected, and in doing that, I think that they should have the ability to replicate them in some way, then we're going to work with you. How do you make decisions about doing that and still be authentic architecturally, not pretend to be from another era, right?
And I think, I think Herzog & de Meuron is one of the most important firms working today, and they're actually located in Basel, which is why we're going to Basel, to go to an office visit there, and then to see, they have like 16 projects in that city. We're going to see as much as we can.
So for us, if your position ends up being, I think architecture is a juxtaposition to what exists, then what we're going to challenge you to do is commit to your position and solve the problem based on your position. And we're going to help you with that and teach you how you go about. There's a process to doing this that is a lot of fun. To give you, I don't know why it's skipping 3 in a row like this. Let's see if I can get it to go back a bit. I just want to give you a feel for the kinds of drawings that are done. So we do massing studies. So, you know, you can study massing very quickly and easily with diagrams, and you can do a lot of different types of diagrams. So this is just to give you a feel for some of the things that come out of that. Doing field studies, diagramming field studies, we'll do a lot of that. So we're going to separate, this is really important, layering the city is a way of understanding the city, so that we can get you to, cities are really complicated, so we can get you to understand the city by peeling it away, layer. We're going to excavate, we're going to cut a layer out and look at that layer. We're going to cut another layer out, let's look at that layer. And then we can sandwich the layers together and see, and it gives you a much better understanding of how the city functions. And we think that you'll learn much more through using that process. And it's an efficient way to study it too, so we can do more in shorter period of time by using methods that we know are more efficient for exploring the city. So when you work and plan, we're going to ask you to keep it simple. Keep it really simple, clean, simple drawings, so that we can really distinguish what's happening between the spaces. So if you look at this this would be a board for a project in one of our studios in Houston. And it's important that you just kind of look at the way a student communicates understanding a linear site and their design position on it. So this is actually a public promenade that's designed for a district. So it's an infill piece as well. This is really just giving you a feel for how we communicate with our drawings. Do you want to talk a little bit more about?
I think I already.
Okay, so
We should probably wrap it up for them soon.
So making sure that you understand that the two classes are going to work like this together. That's also going to make you more efficient, because you're going to be able to capture things from the 4000 course, insert them into your studio language, and because of that efficiency, you'll produce more work, and you'll have more to show for what you leave with for your coursework. In terms of experience, oh my gosh, you're going to see so much stuff. It's going to be, I mean, we're packing it in, and we hope that you guys will also even, take some extra time, because you're going to spend the money to fly there. So why not take advantage of already being there? So certainly, and we also would love to help you with ideas about other places you can go if you're working on a budget, and you're trying to travel on a budget. We both have a lot of travel experience, so we can help you kind of make decisions about what are the best places to go and see on my own as well. You want to talk a little bit about website and kind of, we're gonna be updating the wiki, but we're gonna constantly be putting more information on there for you so that you have a better understanding of the experience that you're going to have as well. Are there questions? Does everybody feel like you have a sense of what the experience might be like for you? Okay.
All right.
Great. We hope you'll join us. We think it's going to be, we think you're going to learn a tremendous amount. This is going to be a great preparation for your grad portion of your education.
And you get Peter Robb, too.
Yeah, and the bonus is we're actually going to have a third faculty member with us. So Peter Robb will be joining us as well.
And the babies.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be just a really great experience for y'all, and we really want y'all to have a wonderful time and learn as much as you possibly can in that 6-week period of time. Any questions that you have, you can email us. You can, my phone number's on my email stuff. You can always text me or call me anytime, no problem. Reach out to us because we want to hear back from you as well. Okay? Thanks.